When you think of Tainan, maybe you picture ancient temples or those famous sweet drinks. But today, we're going to dive deep into a bowl of something just as iconic, yi mei. It's a noodle that, trust me, has a story that goes way beyond its golden, crispy look.
Okay, so let's be real. You look at this, and what's the first thing you think? Wait a second, isn't that just a block of instant ramen? And you know what? That's a totally fair question. It's fried, it's often served in a delicious broth, but the real story, the why it looks this way, is so much more fascinating.
So how exactly does a noodle that looks like this get called a national treasure in Tainan's food scene? Well, the first clue is actually hidden right there in its name, which, it turns out, is wrapped in its own little mystery.
Yeah, the name Yimain isn't nearly as simple as it sounds. In fact, there are 3 different legends all competing to be the true origin story, and each one tells us a little something about the noodle and the culture that dreamed it up.
All right, let's break these down. First up, the most colorful story is that the name comes from the yeez sound the chefs would make. Why? Because they were putting so much effort into kneading this really tough duck egg dough. Then you have the more scholarly idea that it's just shorthand for yi fumian, a famous noodle from a Qing dynasty official's kitchen. And finally, some say it comes from the local dialect for a delicate noodle, because its texture was just so much more refined than other noodles back in the day.
But now, let's get to the million-dollar question. Why is it fried? This is where the story gets absolutely brilliant, because originally, it had nothing to do with taste or texture. It was a genius solution to a huge problem in a time long before refrigerators.
So, picture this. You're in Tainan. It's hot, it's humid, and you've got no fridge. The problem is that these noodles are made with duck eggs, and fresh duck egg noodles spoil fast. So what do? Well, the people of Tainan figured it out. You flash fry them. That quick fry pulls all the moisture out, making them completely shelf-stable. Think of it like this. The frying process literally gives each noodle its own suit of preservation armor. It's an incredible, ancient piece of food tech that meant these noodles could be stored for months, just waiting to be brought back to life in a hot broth. And here's the best part, the happy accident, if you will. That whole frying process creates all these tiny little pores on the noodle surface. So when you finally cook it, it doesn't just sit in the soup. It acts like a perfect sponge, soaking up every last drop of that amazing broth.
And this quote just nails it. If you just look at a fried noodle and think, oh, calories, you're missing the entire point. This isn't about that. It's about the wisdom of people from long ago, solving a real-world problem and just happening to create something delicious while they were at it.
Okay, so we get the noodle now. We understand why it's made this way. But how do you actually eat it? Well, this amazing flavor-absorbing noodle is the star of 2 totally legendary Tainan dishes, and each one shows off a completely different side of its personality.
So on one side, you've got nabayaki yi mein. People call it a deluxe breakfast. Just imagine these noodles swimming in a savory dashi broth. The real art is getting that texture perfect. Half of it is still crispy from the fry, and the other half is soft from the soup. But then, on the complete other end of the spectrum, you have eel yi mein, the pinnacle of Tainan snacks. Here the noodles go soft, soaking up this thick, sweet and sour gravy, all packed with that smoky, wok-fired flavor from the eel. It's one noodle, but 2 completely different worlds.
All right, we've talked about the name, the crazy frying technique, but to really get yi min yi, you have to understand the soul of Tainan's flavor. And that soul is hidden in 2 key ingredients, the eggs and the sugar.
First things first, for that truly authentic flavor, you have to use duck eggs, no substitutes. And there's a good reason why. Duck eggs have more protein and less water. That means you get a much more golden noodle, a richer aroma, and, this is crucial, a noodle that's way more durable so it doesn't turn into a mushy mess in your soup.
And what about that sweetness? You find it in a lot of Tainan dishes, especially the eel yi mein. Well, that's not just about flavor. That is history in a bowl. See, Tainan used to be the center of Taiwan's sugar trade, so sugar was a luxury item. If you used a lot of it in your cooking, you were basically showing everyone how wealthy and important you were. So, the next time you taste that sweetness in a Tainan dish, remember what it is. You're not just tasting sugar, you're literally getting a taste of the city's golden age as a major trading hub. It's a taste of history.
So when you put it all together, yi mein is so much more than just a meal. It's basically the granddaddy of all instant noodles, born out of a real need to preserve food. It's a symbol of ancestral wisdom, and because of its round shape, it even became a symbol of family reunion.
So it really leaves you with this thought, right? A simple block of fried noodles can hold centuries of cleverness, culture, and history. It just makes you wonder. The next time you sit down to eat any simple dish, what incredible untold stories might you be tasting?